The I think I was looking at a definition of civilization the other day, which is from a guy called Alfred North Whitehead. And he said, civilization advances by extending the number of important operations which we can perform without thinking about them. And I was thinking that that's something that I've always very much appreciated coming to Estonia over the past 15 or 20 years. The feeling that one was coming to a country where things were actually easier than they were in the West. Easier to get hold of politicians, easier to get decisions made, easier in terms of Wi-Fi, easier in terms of a whole range of things. And I think that is if one's looking at the competitive advantage of Estonia going forward, I think that's one of the things to focus on, of making life, it's a place where you can work hard but live easily. And that's going to be, I think, the root of Estonian competitiveness in the future. You've had a period of great competitiveness because of your location, cheap labour force, reasonably good logistics, low taxes, honest government. And that, I think, won't continue to have the same pull over the years ahead. And the question is how you can make Estonia into a place where people want to come and live, both in terms of the foreigners being posted to Estonia by international companies or wanting to come and invest here and saying this is a place we want to live, and also in terms of getting Estonians living abroad to come back here. You've been quite lucky, I think, over the past 15 years in not having the kind of brain drain which has been experienced by countries such as Latvia and Lithuania, and to a huge extent by Romania and Poland. Now, it's very good having people going abroad because they learn new things, but you need to make sure it's a two-way street, that they come back again. And again, that competitiveness in terms of quality of life in the broadest sense, I think is absolutely crucial.
Well, about 10 years ago, I was asked to write an essay about where Estonia would be, I don't know, sometime in the future. And at that point, I said something which I'm more convinced of today than I was 10 years ago, which is that competition is not going to be based on corporate taxes, but competition will be based on who can get the largest number of bright people. And getting the number of bright people is not a function of your tax base or of your taxation policy. Clearly, there's a connection, but if we only focus on the level of corporate income tax, then that is not what motivates people to move somewhere. What motivates people to go somewhere or to return somewhere is the quality of life in that place. And that quality of life is not simply the quality of the roads. It does have to do with the quality of the roads. It does have to do with, but it has to do much more with the attitudes in society. I mean, if one of the, I think it's important we note that even a taxation policy isn't necessarily something that leads to great results, since the corporate headquarters of Skype is in Luxembourg, not in Tallinn, but the R&D headquarters of Skype are right here. But even if you talk to the people who run Skype, they say that they have no problem hiring the highest priced high-tech engineers they want, but they can't always get them because they won't move here. They won't move here because, they won't move here because their wife can't get a job. They won't move here because their children would have a very hard time getting an education. They won't move here because there are funny attitudes towards people who look like they're from the Indian subcontinent. So the quality of life is actually an issue that is beginning to, I think, even affect the quality of our competitive ability, because if Skype can't hire people because they won't come here, it's not just money. I mean, it's not simply how much money you offer to people. Then we have a problem. And I think this also touches upon our educational system, which, has been noted here, produces very bright people. We are no longer in the incubator of the Soviet Union, where, in fact, which kept the best and the brightest here. the best and the brightest, in fact, chose to remain in Estonia because there really wasn't, I mean, even if you did have a chance to go to Moscow University, perhaps because education was perhaps even better there, you didn't do it for other reasons. But today, most of the graduates of the best high schools, secondary schools in Estonia want to go elsewhere. That's a tremendous challenge for our higher educational system. And a further challenge for our higher educational system is to get those people back, because we're not going to put up barbed wire and say you can't leave. So they will leave if they want, but then how do we get them back? Again, they will want to come back if the quality of life here is something that meets their expectations. They will come back here if they are not viewed as funny, strange people who present unwanted competition in academia. Those are all issues that we, I think, need to deal with, but they, at least this part of the discussion, they largely have to do with issues of quality of life. And issues of quality of life, to come back to what I began with, are not things you change in an election cycle, and quality of life is not something you change the way you join the European Union or join NATO or get into the Eurozone.
I think that's very interesting. I was reflecting on, I remember meeting Juri Lotman here maybe 20 years ago, and for him it was a very obvious choice to come and study in Tartu. He liked the idea of being in Estonia, compared with the other options in the then Soviet Union. And I wonder if today's Yuri Lotmans in Russia, who may be fed up with the increasing academic censorship there, with the corruption, with all the other problems of higher education, would they instinctively think that they want to come to Tartu now? There is a competition going on for global brainpower. And I was interested on the plane over here. I don't normally regard the in-flight flight magazine of Finnair as a great source for journalism, although it's a perfectly fine magazine. It's called Blue Wings. But I was impressed by